needing to give myself grace when I'm not able to do things that I did the day before. And that can feel very frustrating at times because I'm like, wait, I was totally fine yesterday. Why all of a sudden am I having a flare up and getting a headache, or I have light sensitivity, or I need to sit down and taking a walk is just so exhausting, or I just can't concentrate and think because the brain fog is so real right now. And so we can only share our perspective the way that we see it. And so that makes our story unique, and it makes it worth telling. One person hears it and they say, wow, this encouraged me, and I can view this difficulty in my life through this new lens, and now I get to go share that with someone else and share that with another person, and it's just this ripple effect.
There is always hope, and you are not alone.
Welcome to Hope Survives, a podcast from the Hope Survives nonprofit supporting individuals and families navigating life with brain injury. I'm your host, Cristabelle Braden. After my own experience with traumatic brain injury, including multiple re-injuries, I've learned how isolating this road can feel and how hard it can be to find a way forward. No one should have to walk it alone. On this show, we explore the realities of life with brain injury through encouragement, thoughtful conversations, expert insights, and real stories. No matter where you are on your journey, remember, you're never alone, and hope survives.
With a little hope, you can make it through today. With a little faith, someday you'll get through the pain. Just a little love is enough to light the way through your darkest night. Hope survives, a faith with love. Hope survives.
Hey friends, welcome back to Hope Survives podcast. Today we have a wonderful episode ahead for you as my dear friend Laura Conaway is here. She is a best-selling author in fiction. She's also written nonfiction, and of course she's going to talk about writing and storytelling and how we can share our stories. But more than that, she also knows what it's like to live with daily symptoms and just the struggle of feeling like you're not quote unquote normal, living with chronic conditions that developed after having a concussion at a young age. She has been living with POTS, and she is going to share just some of her journey with that, of feeling different than the people around you and how to cope with flare-ups, how to cope with symptoms. And as I mentioned, she's a close friend of mine and is one of the most encouraging people that I know. And so I hope and know that you will be encouraged by our conversation today and just by the sincerity and just the way that she communicates hope with all of you. So I'm very excited about that. Laura also has done a workshop course with us called Writing with Hope, Share Your Story and Find Your Voice. This is now available on demand on the Hope Survives community portal. You can access it by going to hopesurvives.org/writingwithhope. And we're going to talk a little bit about the course in the interview, but I just wanted to let you know how to access it because we recently launched something called the Hope Collective on hopesurvives.org, and I have been so excited about it. The Hope Collective is a space to share writings, reflections, stories from you, from the community. And if you've been wanting to share your story, but you're not quite sure where to start, the Hope Collective is the place for you. And this workshop is designed to help guide you at a brain injury-friendly pace through the essentials of communicating your voice and crafting a thoughtful and compelling writing submission that will be eligible to publish on the Hope Collective. We believe that your writing has the opportunity to bring awareness to brain injury and help others on their journey. So in this Writing with Hope course, which is available for free, on demand, straight on the Hope Survives community portal, we will explore how to shape personal experience into storytelling, find meaningful themes related to life after brain injury, and write with purpose. Laura will help you to find the powerful themes from your journey, provide concrete writing tips, and demonstrate the full process by talking through a sample writing submission. We're going to talk about how to shape your personal experience into storytelling, tips for writing with emotion, intention, and reader awareness, and what makes a submission compelling, relatable, and helpful for readers who are navigating brain injury. So we would love to invite you to check out the Writing with Hope, Share Your Story and Find Your Voice course, available at hopesurvives.org/writing with hope. We will put that link in the description. And also before that, please continue listening to this episode. So once this episode's done, we'd love for you to check out that course. And today, man, I'm just so excited. I love hanging out with my friend Laura, and I hope that this episode just feels like you're hanging out with us. And we just loved having this conversation. But before we get into that, we have a spotlight from the Functional Neurology Center. You may remember Dr. Harvey from a podcast talking about dysautonomia, and Laura's story includes dysautonomia. I mentioned she has POTS, which is a form of dysautonomia. And so I thought first, let's talk about what is dysautonomia? How does it affect us? So if you haven't heard the episode, it goes into a lot more detail. And then today, Laura's going to talk about the lived experience of what it's like for someone who's actually living with it. So we are very excited. And Dr. Harvey is also back today to share a spotlight to talk about the importance of creativity and writing after brain injury. So let's give it over to Dr. Harvey.
So now we're going to kind of talk about how could writing, creative writing and being able to get your thoughts on paper be really valuable for someone that's experienced a head injury or a concussion. This is a really cool tool because not only does it have a lot of therapeutic benefit in terms of brain stimulation, but it's also a great way to help socialize and build a tribe of people that understand what you're going through. Socialization is a really, really important part of being, a human. And it's also a very important part of connection. And connection is a really important part for the brain, right? So I think that a great way to be able to socialize with your community of people that understand what you're going through is to be able to give your thoughts on not only how has this journey affected you, but then also find commonality among people that have experienced maybe very similar things. Or maybe you have very different injuries and different symptoms, and your progression of your injury looks very different, but you can find a commonality in some of the stuff you're dealing with, right? I think another cool thing is that by doing writing, you're actually using a lot of fine motor skill. And we think about fine motor skill, like doing things like hand dexterity and fine motor movements are really, really stimulating for parts of the brain like the cerebellum. And the cerebellum is really, really involved in things like the accuracy and the balance and the coordination of how you think, but also how you move your body, things like emotional control. All of these types of things are really, really involved with the cerebellum, and fine motor skill movements like writing is a great way to stimulate that part of the brain. So I think it's multifactorial in that it's really, really a great way to socialize, because I think that's something that's really important with brain injury is a lot of people get away from, they start losing pieces of their life because it's maybe overly stimulating for them, or they find it to be provocative, where like I used to love to go play card games with my family, and now it just seems like something that's really, really provocative for me, and I don't find pleasure in the same way. So can we find a way for you to continue to socialize with the people in your life and the people in your community without it feeling overwhelming for you, and for it to be a tool therapeutically for you rather than it to be something problematic? So I think this is a really, really cool tool, and I'm really excited to kind of see what Hope Survives is putting together for the community.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey, so much for that insight. And we want to thank the Functional Neurology Center for being a sponsor of our podcast. The FNC offers personalized neuro recovery programs for anyone going through brain injury and a wide range of neurological conditions. When you trust your brain to the team at the Functional Neurology Center, they take the time to get to know the whole you, so they can personalize your recovery program for your unique and complex condition. There's hope for a better tomorrow, and the FNC is committed to helping you get back what matters most. Visit thefnc.com to give you a little more background on Laura. Laura Conaway is a best-selling and award-winning author and speaker with 5 fiction novels published and more on the way. Her fiction works have been published by Sunrise Publishing and Love Inspired Suspense, which is a division of HarperCollins. She's also written nonfiction for several publications, including Sadie Robertson Huff's Live Original. Her speaking experience has spanned from educational settings, ministry groups, and various workshops, as well as leading Bible studies and youth and young adult ministries. Laura has been mentored by Jefferson Bethke, Susan May Warren, Lisa Phillips, and Danny Petrie. Now she mentors others through her online course, A Writer's Beginning Guide to Storytelling. She holds a bachelor's degree in Kutztown University with a dual major in library science and English education and a minor in professional writing. She currently resides in Pennsylvania and creates stories with a healthy dose of suspense and happily ever afters while her characters discover triumph through trials. Let's get into today's interview. I am here with Laura Conaway, who is a best-selling and award-winning author, also a dear friend of mine. Laura, welcome to Hope Survives podcast.
Thank you so much, Cristabelle. It is a joy to be here. I'm glad that we could finally make this happen.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. First time ever. Welcome.
Yes.
So would you start off by just introducing a little bit of your background to our audience?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a published best-selling fiction author with 5 books out already, which is crazy. Time flies. And I've had the privilege of also writing for different nonfiction publications and just having a journey of writing. I graduated from college with a degree in education and professional writing. And so stories, libraries, books, words, all of that is just right up my alley. And it's just been wonderful to be on this journey.
Can you share a little bit about your journey with concussion and POTS?
Absolutely. Yeah, so that has been a decade-long journey that I have walked through. What started with an undiagnosed concussion in middle school, and over the years, symptoms continued to progress as I was just wrestling with my body and not understanding what was happening until years later, I had my diagnosis of POTS and dysautonomia. And so POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and just walking through what it meant for my body to do things that I didn't necessarily want it to do, and just learning how to navigate a life that was different than what I had been used to.
And when we met, I don't remember who brought it up first, but one of us said something about, oh, I have to have salt or sit down because I have dysautonomia. And then I don't know if it was you that said it. And then I was like, wait, me too. Or if it was
Yes.
me that said it and you were like, wait, me too. But pretty early on, we realized that we both had dysautonomia and we both had been living with that. And so we bonded pretty quickly over that.
We did. I got so excited when we had that conversation because I was like, there's someone else who understands what this is like.
Yeah, because it's a daily occurrence. So
It
can you
is.
talk about what it's been like for you having to learn how to manage symptoms?
Yeah. Like you said, it really is a daily occurrence, and each day is different. And so it really requires just adapting to what your body needs for that day. And so that has often looked like needing to give myself grace when I'm not able to do things that I did the day before. And that can feel very frustrating at times because I'm like, wait, I was totally fine yesterday. Why all of a sudden am I having a flare up and getting a headache, or I have light sensitivity, or I need to sit down, and taking a walk is just so exhausting. And so I need to have more salt today and stay hydrated. And so it really just feels like there's such a fluctuation that I can easily get discouraged. And so I have to continually remind myself to be patient and to invite my community and my friends like you into my life who can remind me that it is okay to slow down and take the breaks that I need to take care of myself.
Yeah, and it affects a lot of things in life, right? There are so
Mhm.
many times that we have to learn how to say no to things that we
Yes.
wish we could say yes to. We've also had a number of conversations about the invisible factor of it and how to disclose it to friends and family. Can you talk a little bit about, you're talking about it obviously on a podcast now. You've come very far, but I remember a couple years ago, having conversations on like, how do I tell people that if they want to go on a hike that I can't keep up with their pace or that I can't always do these things? Like, how have you navigated disclosing about it to other
Mm,
people?
Yeah, that is great. And honestly, this was a part of my story that I felt so ashamed about for a while. And it really has taken a lot of courage to be more vocal and public about it. because it feels so limiting to me. And I'm frustrated that my body doesn't do the things that it wants to do. Yeah.
And you don't want to shout that from the rooftops, right? Right? Like, saying, "Oh, I can't do things."
Exactly.
Yay. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's weird.
It is,
Yeah.
especially when you start comparing yourself to people who are around the same age as you, who might be more able-bodied, and you know that you should be able to do this, but you can't. Um, and so it really has taken courage on my part to be confident in myself and knowing that people who are receptive, they will be kind and gracious. And I don't have to go into all the specific details, but I can just say, hey, this is a part of life that is challenging for me. This is what it looks like, and here's how you can help me in this moment. And so making it less about the limitations and the debilitation and more about here's how you can come alongside and support me because I care about you. And so I want to invite you into this part of my life.
And it's easier said than done to learn how to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
I think that you touched on we joked a little bit, but I do want to go back to the heart of that. I think we touched on a really important thing that a lot of people with brain injury feel, is that feeling ashamed of a certain level of, I have these limitations, but I don't want everyone to know, but I also have to advocate for myself because I can't do these things, but I wish I could do these things. And so can you just dive a little bit deeper into the tension of that?
Yeah, I think one of the harder parts of my story is that initially when I did start to open up to people, or even in the process of trying to figure out what was happening with my body, I would have people who would be very condescending and unkind in their response. And that just brought so much discouragement to me and really solidified that feeling of shame and limitation. And so it took me a while to understand, okay, what does this actually look like? Especially as you said, like this is invisible. And so I would have people comment all the time that, oh, you look normal. Like, what do you mean something is wrong with you? And so that was really difficult to be able to communicate that in this moment, I am having a really bad headache, or I feel like I'm going to pass out, or I just like can't concentrate and think because the brain fog is so real right now. And from the outside, like, I remember there'd be times I would walk to the bathroom and look in the mirror and see a perfectly normal person on the outside. And it was so discouraging because I looked totally fine. And in that moment inside, I was not feeling okay. And so it was hard, to be honest. And it has taken a lot of patience and time for sure, um, to step past that shame.
Mm-hmm. And now you're sharing more publicly about your
Mhm.
journey and your story and living with chronic illness. We have this in common as well, nutrition things. We're both gluten free. We have very similar nutrition things, which is fun with a friend because if you have similar nutrition goals, Laura brings her own food everywhere, everywhere.
Yes.
And when I would invite her over, I'm like, Laura, I'll make you lunch. And she's like, I'm just not used to somebody being able to make me food. And so that's been a little bit of a fun part of our friendship. But can you talk a little bit about navigating like feeling different with the
Mm.
food and like having different nutrition than the people around
Mhm.
you and what that's been like?
Yeah, I have always thought, and I don't know if I've communicated this to you, but I love having a party or some kind of celebration with you because I know I'm going to be able to go and enjoy things.
I have everything labeled like gluten free, gluten and
Exactly.
dairy free,
Yes.
dairy free.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and like you said, I
Thank you.
was absolutely. I have often just learned how to be independent and self-sufficient because I don't want to put those burdens or those expectations on other people. And so, yeah, I would bring my lunchbox with my food and make sure that I had all my ducks in a row so that I wouldn't be feeling hungry because then that also can just aggravate symptoms, right? And not being well fed is just going to exasperate things. And so I would often feel excluded when I would go somewhere, or sometimes I would even have to say no to an event because I knew that I wasn't going to enjoy myself because there wasn't going to be a spread of things that I could eat and feel like was going to actually nourish and take care of my body. And so I had some dear friends, like you included, who would say, you know what, I'm going to make you food, or just come to this event and I will pack my food with you and we can eat and do that together. And again, like seeing people who just cared so much and invited me into their world and let me not feel that shame was so important and so encouraging for me in my own journey. And also then being able to remember, yeah, I might be different in my food dietary restrictions, but I also know what helps my body and what is going to help it heal and feel strong. And so I'm doing this to take care of myself and the vessel that God has given me. And from that, I also know that I just value community and spending time with people. And so I started to look at it more as, okay, even if I have to pack my own food, I want to go to this event because I need people in my life and I need to be surrounded by others.
Thank you for sharing that. And you've talked a little bit in your journey so far about courage. You mentioned courage, about
Mm.
the courage to share a little bit of your journey with others and how that has been. You also, as we mentioned, are a published author. And how did you take the courage? How did you get the courage to start writing and to even say, I want to write novels? And now you have 5 books published, which at your age is crazy that you've had 5 published novels under the age of 30. Absolutely incredible. But how did you get started and how did you find the courage to step into something creative like that?
Yeah, thank you for your encouragement in that. It's it's so surreal to just have people supporting me in this. It was honestly a step-by-step process. It wasn't overnight, and it was just taking that one next step. And so that started when I have always loved writing, and so I would keep a journal growing up, and that would just be personal for myself of just the things I was walking through that I needed to reflect on. And my first year of college, when I moved away from home, I was just learning different things in that season that I wanted to record for myself, but I also wanted to use as encouragement for other people. So I decided, why not start a blog like every other freshman college girl who wants to provide encouragement to people? And so I did. I started that, and I didn't have any, you know, expectations for what it would look like. But I just kind of put it out there and said, hey, this is something that I am using to process life right now. And if it encourages you, like I'd love for you to follow along. And so people did. They started following along and they would send me emails or comments on the blog that they were just encouraged. And I realized that this was something that I could actually do more of. And so that opened up doors for me to be able to do blog posts for different organizations. I had the privilege of blogging for Sadie Robertson Huff and her organization Live Original. And then from there, that just continued to give me the courage to take that next step to see I love writing and I want to encourage people. And then with my degree in college with writing, and it just opened doors for practice and growth in writing novels and getting my first contract.
And what I love about your books is that, first of all, they're page turners. I remember reading Silencing the Witness, and I literally had to force myself to stop reading it so I could go to sleep. And then I told myself the next day, I'm like, I can't read this before bed because your genre is romantic suspense.
Yeah.
And the suspense is real, guys. The suspense is real. And I literally had to tell myself I can only read this during the day because otherwise I'm not going to go to sleep. Because it keeps me up wanting to read it. But I just love your writing. And so I wanted to ask you, you write these beautiful romantic stories with an element of suspense and mystery, and you weave faith through it. And so can you talk a little bit about how did you pick that genre and how did you get to writing that?
I have loved Nancy Drew my whole life, and my goal was to be her as an adult. And so now I feel like I get to live vicariously through her with constantly solving mysteries that I create, and then I have to figure out who did it. Um, and so I get to decide the whole plot, which is super fun. Even when I am writing a suspense novel, there are times where I scare myself, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see this coming, or this was really action packed or thrilling. And so, because I grew up loving just surprises and secrets and trying to figure things out, problem solving, I knew that suspense was part of the niche that I wanted to dive into. But we have had this conversation. I am very much a hopeless romantic and I love love. And so I knew that I wanted to also incorporate that into my stories. And it felt like meshing romance and suspense. And knowing that that was already a thriving genre felt like the best of both worlds for me. And through that, and through my own just personal journey and the chronic illness that I've walked through, and just wrestling with the hardships of life, I knew that I wanted to provide encouragement for people because life is hard and we need hope and we need triumph in life. And suspense can be a very dark genre. There's a lot of things that happen in there and that can make it very difficult and challenging. And so that's where the faith component came in for me, where I really wanted to leave readers with inspiration and encouragement for their own story, that no matter how dark their life might seem, this story didn't end on a dark note and their life won't end on a dark note either. And so that really formed my tagline, triumph through trials, and that no matter what people are walking through, there is always triumph and victory.
Thank you for sharing that. And you described the suspense genre. You're like, it's very dark and there could be a lot of discouragement and overwhelm. And well, you didn't use those words, but I went there in my head and I'm like, that's life. Man, life is like a suspense story because we don't know what's happening and it can be overwhelming, right?
Absolutely.
But I love that you bring inspiration into that and the reminder that there's always hope, which is our tagline for Hope Survives. There's always hope. So I want to get into a little bit of the work you've done here with us at Hope Survives. Laura just did an incredible workshop for us called Writing with Hope, and encourage our community to share your story and find your voice. And this recording of the workshop is now available on our community portal as a course that you can walk through to learn from Laura on how to craft your own story. Now, this is specifically on nonfiction, right? This is on writing a blog post or writing an article. And so at Hope Survives, we've opened something called the Hope Collective, where you can share your writings and be published on hopesurvives.org, which we are so excited about. This is new as of Brain Injury Awareness Month this year. And Laura, you provided such great step-by-step guidance. We can't get into all the tips. We don't have time on the podcast, but go watch the recording because it's worth it. But something that I love about what you did with us and with our community is acknowledging how hard life can be with brain injury and encouraging those who attended to know that they can write and they can do it. So can you talk a little bit about the significance of writing, why someone should even consider writing, and encourage them if this is something they might want to try?
Yeah, it was so fun to be a part of this workshop and get to be a cheerleader and champion others to write their story. And one of my just favorite parts about writing is that we all have a story to tell, that we are all unique in our personalities and our experiences, even down to our DNA. And so we can only share our perspective the way that we see it. And so that makes our story unique and it makes it worth telling because we as people matter, you as a person matter, and so therefore your story matters. So just providing like that encouragement to know you can impact someone else with the story of your life. And often that comes around the idea of themes in our life. Everyone can understand what it means to walk through loneliness or have to wait on something or to wrestle through forgiveness. Like these are common themes for human life and the journey that we're all on. And so while our experiences might be different, that's where the beauty of blogging and nonfiction storytelling come into play. Because we can invite people in almost like we're sitting down for coffee and saying, hey, like, this is a part of my story that I want to share with you and what I've learned about the themes of life. And now I get to impart that to you, which will then give a domino effect, right? And so one person hears it and they say, wow, like this encouraged me and I can view this difficulty in my life through this new lens. And now I get to go share that with someone else and share that with another person. And it's just this ripple effect that is contagious because you chose to share your story.
I love that. So, what encouragement would you have for those of our audience that had brain injuries, their family members, their loved ones of people with brain injuries, or they've had the injury themselves? What encouragement would you give to them if maybe they're not sure, they've never written before, but maybe they want to try? What encouragement would you have for them?
Just start writing. Just put something on the page. And if it's hard for you to actually type something on a screen because you just feel fatigue or exhaustion, or just staring at a blank page feels intimidating, maybe even just do a talk to text, do some dictation features, walk around, or just start talking your story out with someone who can help you put it onto the page. And just putting those words, just brainstorming, you'll be amazed at what you were able to come up with, and you'll realize just how significant your story is and what you have to share with people.
Can you talk a little bit about the brainstorming guide resource that you helped to develop with us that any of you can go and download right now? But can you talk a little bit about that resource and how it could help people?
Yeah, so that brainstorming guide is a 4-step process. So we tried to make it as easy as possible for you with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and give you the confidence to be able to do one step at a time. And these steps don't have to be linear. They don't have to be done in the same amount of time. Like, you can take breaks, you can take days off of this. And honestly, the best writers are the ones who write over a period of time because they're really thinking and processing what they want to share. And you need those breaks so that you can allow creativity to flow. And from that, the best writers are also revisers. And so, like I said, just write and just write and just put something on the page and you can edit it later. And so, this brainstorming guide is really meant to help you walk through just getting words on the page and thinking through how your story can impact someone else and making it in a very easy to follow format, so that you feel encouraged and capable and confident of getting your story out there.
One of my favorite slides from your workshop said on the left hand, "You can do this." Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yes. I feel like that is so worth repeating. You can do this. You really can. And I know I've repeated this before, but it really is just doing that one next step. And it doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be fancy or flashy. It really is just saying, okay, I am going to write one thing today. Or I am going to even tell one person my experience or my story. And that really can just help tremendously as you are writing and allow you to feel like you can do this. You can be unique and confident and share, let your voice shine through because you have a story to tell and it can inspire other people. So you really you can do this. It might feel intimidating, but there are so many resources and features. We even talked about how ChatGPT can be really helpful with the brainstorming process. If that's something that you want to dive into and you just need assistance. But also it was super fun because I think you had shared this with me initially, was just the scientific data behind creativity and neuroplasticity. And so even being reminded that you can do this as you are being creative and writing, you are actually helping your brain develop new connections and strengthen that brain health. And then the more you do that, the stronger you get. And so it'll be easier for you to feel like I can do this again. I can do this again, because it just is a natural process that gets stronger.
I love that. Creativity, it brings neuroplasticity, but also at Hope Survives, we believe that your story matters and your voice does matter. If you don't feel ready to share, there's no pressure to share. But if you're thinking, I want to help somebody else maybe going through this could be a way to do it. So if you visit the Hope Collective at hopesurvives.org, you can read some of the reflections that have been sent in. We also have a guided story interview that if you don't feel ready to maybe craft your own blog post yet, the guided story that's a written interview where you share some of your journey through brain injury, might be a great place for you to start as well. So we are so grateful. We would love to read some of your writings. Go check out the course by Laura on our community portal. You can find that at Writing with Hope on hopesurvives.org. And before we close, Laura, what are your final words of hope for our listeners?
Yes, is take that one next step. Keep pushing forward and celebrating the small victories, because long-term change and habits come from simple decisions that we make every day. And so that one next step is forming you into your future self. And you can do this. You can do it. Take that one next step.
And I have to say, Laura lives that. She shared some of her journey, and we don't have time to get too much into this, but being your friend, I just want to say, I've seen you during flare-ups. I've seen you on really hard days, and I've seen you when you have felt really overwhelmed, but yet you always make time to write, to reach your goals, and do it one word at a time, really. When you're writing, you will dedicate time to write. And even when you have flare-ups, sometimes you have to adjust your schedule and say, it's not going to happen today, but I'm going to try and do it tomorrow. And so I really think you live out taking that one step. And I'm so thankful. We didn't talk about this, but your book, Expired Vows, I wanted to talk about it. So I'm going to just shove it in here to the very last minute. But Laura wrote a book called Expired Vows. And in it, one of her characters is a counselor for people with brain injuries. And Laura asked me to be her sensitivity writer. And I endorsed that book on the cover or the back cover or whatever, or the inside, wherever it is. I can't remember where it is. But Laura has characters with brain injury in that story, and I was a part of helping her to make sure they were accurate. And so that was a really fun way to work with you on that. So you can check out all of Laura's books. Can you share what your website is?
Yeah, it is lauraconawayauthor.com. Conaway is Conaway. And I would love to connect with you there.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura. And if you are not able to read physical books, she has audiobooks available for those who like to listen. I will say it's pretty suspenseful. So
It is.
It's very much a page turner. It will pass the time for you. So audiobooks available, Kindle, e-readers, a lot of options to read these stories. And we would love to read your post on the Hope Collective. We also forgot to mention Laura wrote a post on the Hope Collective as well. So you can read a little bit more about Laura's journey with her pods on the Hope Collective. So thank you, Laura, again for being here. We could keep talking, but we're going to take this offline. So
Thank you, Crystal.
bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Hope Survives podcast. If you have any other questions that came up, you can email us hi@hopesurvives.org, and we will be glad to pass those along to Laura. Thanks again for listening, and thanks, Laura, for being here.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, we would love if you would consider leaving us a rating or a review. We are so grateful to be able to provide this support for the brain injury community. And if you would like to get connected, please visit hopesurvives.org.